It's Wednesday, May 8, 2024. Welcome to CVM News at noon. I'm Ramon Gordon. 4 alleged criminals are dead, and a police officer is being treated for gunshot wounds following an early morning shootout in downtown Kingston on Wednesday. Commanding officer for the Kingston Central Police Division, Superintendent Beresford Williams, provided the details for CVM News.
So sometime after 1 o'clock, the police were in the Orange Street area when they heard gunshots or explosions sounding like gunshots, and went to investigate, at which point they were fired on by a group of men. The police returned the fire and the men ran in different directions. Shortly after, a vehicle was seen coming from an open lot in the same vicinity. The men in that motor vehicle, a white IH, opened gunfire at the police, resulting in a running gun battle, which ended when the vehicle crashed along King Street vicinity, Charles Street. The men alighted from the vehicle, continued firing at the police. The police returned the fire. At the end of the shooting, 3 men were found at the location. A subsequent search of the area resulted in a 4th body being found.
Now, the superintendent says the men were found with 3 9mm pistols, and a subsequent search of the vehicle yielded 2 M16 rifles. The police are theorizing the men's presence stems from a recent murder in the space.
We were in the space with heightened attention because of a murder that occurred last week, and we have beefed up further the presence in that space.
Is the police theorizing, or is there an indication that this, the shooting that the police walked into would have been connected to that murder, or any theories as to what was happening there prior to the arrival of the officers?
We highly suspect that it had something to do with that shooting.
More in News at 7. Now, AstraZeneca has issued a recall of its COVID-19 vaccine months after acknowledging the potential for a rare blood clotting side effect. In February, AstraZeneca conceded in a legal document that its COVID vaccine can, in rare cases, induce an uncommon side effect associated with blood clots and low blood platelet counts. The side effect has been linked to at least 81 deaths in the UK, along with numerous serious injuries. Despite some European states suspending its use over concerns for blood clotting, the Jamaican government in 2021 expressed confidence in the AstraZeneca shot. Since the announcement of the recall, local health authorities have yet to issue a statement on the matter. We'll, of course, continue to monitor this developing story. Meanwhile, Jamaica has joined 19 other countries and territories that have eliminated the mother-to-child transmission of syphilis and the human immunodeficiency virus, more commonly called HIV. The announcement came Tuesday during a special event in Kingston, where health ministers from Belize and St. Vincent were also present, celebrating the same feat. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton shared the news in the lower house soon after.
We have done the analysis. We are now introducing a $1,300 Jamaican dollars per year screening test for pap smear for women, Jamaican women over 21 years old, so they are able to do a pap smear test once a year for cervical cancer. We are adding services based on the challenges in the population.
And the minister also shared other news. All Jamaican women over 21 will receive a $13,000 yearly stipend for cancer screenings. More now, despite efforts by Minister with responsibility for water, Senator Matthew Samuda, some authorities are calling for stronger solutions to the water crisis in Western Jamaica. Former president of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Attraction, Evelyn Smith, and PNP spokesperson on tourism, Senator Janice Allen, fear a continuation of the crisis could cause them bigger trouble. They were speaking on Lead Story yesterday.
The fact is, we're at a point where it is a crisis. You may not want to use the word catastrophe, but I will say it's a crisis. And I expect that with a crisis, as we have done with other projects, namely the Montego Bay bypass, the perimeter road, We have made it into a national project. Why can't we make Negril water supply issue a national project when it is that it is impacting an industry that contributes so significantly to our economy?
For us, what we need from a short term, and George, don't get me wrong, I think there are a lot of really hardworking men and women out there in the trenches for NWC, and we thank them.
Yes.
They are out there trying their very best. But I think that from an NWC perspective and then from a ministerial perspective, there needs to be much more focus and attention to get to the issues.
Now today is National Teachers Day, a time to honor educators for their dedication. But it's more than just celebrating their work. It's about recognizing the lasting impact they have on students. Esther Tyson, an independent education consultant, stressed on Sunrise this morning the importance of teachers understanding their profound influence.
I think some teachers know that, and some teachers realize that later on in life, because the impact can be positive and negative. I have this a question that when I'm doing professional development sessions with teachers, I usually ask them, who are the teachers that you remember the most from when you were in school? And inevitably, the answer is those that made me feel valued and those who were terrible.
What are this?
It's the spectrum.
That's right. And so what is the impact that you want to have? If as a teacher you make a child feel loved and seen, and you as a teacher will help that child to accomplish things that normally they wouldn't do because of the relationship that you have with them. And so a teacher's relationship with children is so important before they begin to teach content.
Jamaica will descend to Haiti status should the PNP fail to secure majority in the next general election. That's according to the opposition's candidate for St. Ann Northeastern, who is alarmed by what he calls growing financial inequity. Here's more. The People's National Party's hopeful for St. Ann Northeastern, Dr. Ryan Simpson, is bemoaning what he perceives as inexcusable levels of local inequity. The axed former JLP activist at a PNP divisional meeting in Belfield, Manchester on Sunday echoed the views of his opposition colleagues, who for months contended that despite economic gains, the reward for average Jamaicans remains woefully insufficient. The aspiring MP is warning of growing disquiet, caused in part by the ongoing housing crisis.
You have in Northeast St. Ann luxury apartments going up by the dozen, by the hundreds, sold out before they finish build, but my people in Northeast St. Ann can't afford them. NHT give loan to private entity to build luxury apartment, and they couldn't even recover the loan, much less an interest on it. Yet the people who deserve it, the hard-working Jamaicans, cannot afford it.
Interim Spectrum Group CEO Roger Williams at an event in March indicated the need for more affordable housing options locally. He argued that most Jamaicans find it hard to find properties they can afford or where they want to live. Dr. Simpson believes this and other government shortcomings may lead to unrest.
If the People's National Party don't win the next general election, Jamaica is going to be the next Haiti. Mark my words.
Meanwhile, the local government ministry is also under fire for its perceived failures. At least one opposition member is calling on Jamaicans to withhold certain taxes.
When you look at the condition with garbage pile up, when you look at the condition with defective streetlights, the drought situation, people were suffering for water. I'm going to encourage my constituents not to pay any property tax until they start to feel the effect of their property tax.
It's now time for a quick break. Stay with us.
It's every rubbish in a pan, no dirty
dirty up the place, this a we island, so keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica. Say me we do it, keep Jamaica clean. Beg you listen to me please. No plastic bag, no fear blowing at the breeze. No proper garbage disposal, recycle plastic, now make it full up in the streets. Bag it and bin it, every rubbish in a pan. No dirty up the place, this a we island, so keep Jamaica, keep Jamaica. Say me we do it. A message from the National Solid Waste Management Authority.
Attention all commuters, your JUTC fares just got lower. Use your smarter card today and pay only $50. Yes, only $50. Travel safe and hassle-free with the JUTC using your smarter card. But wait, there's more. Get 3 free rides with your first smarter card top-up before May 31. And starting May 13, all adult commuters without a smarter card will pay $100. With your smarter card, paying your fare is easier. Say goodbye to coins and hello to hassle-free travel. Don't miss this opportunity when you travel with the JUTC, your route to excellence.
Welcome back. It's time for our discussion segment. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton delivered his sectoral presentation in Parliament yesterday. While the Health Minister announced a raft of new investments and incentives for Jamaicans, he also hit back at opposition claims of overspending on the long-awaited Cornwall Regional Hospital project. Here's what he had to say.
First of all, the 21 billion includes expenditures on Falmouth, on Noel Homes, on building out a new accident and emergency, the previously Mount Salem Clinic, a new diagnostic center outside of the main building. Because for those who care to know the truth, they would appreciate that we had to build a hospital around the hospital to continue the services in order to repair the main building.
Joining us to discuss this and more is Shadow Minister on Health, the PNP's Dr. Alfred Dawes. Dr. Dawes, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon.
Right off the bat, what's your initial reaction to the Health Minister's presentation yesterday?
I think the Health Minister has really demonstrated that they're out of touch with the reality of what ordinary Jamaicans and healthcare workers are facing. Because announcing that you have a lot of money to spend or have spent a lot of money does not translate into what people are feeling or experiencing if you're having increased morbidity, increased suffering from chronic diseases, if Cornwall Regional is still not up and running years after it was promised that the initial project would entail ripping out the ventilation shafts and getting the hospital up and running in a timely manner. Now, when you put in all of this money into a building where you are not sure what the useful life is going to be, this was constructed in the 1970s. That's a 50-year-old building that you're basically calling brand new secondhand. And how long is it going to last? Would that money really have been better spent upgrading properly the hospitals in the Western region and adequately staffing them? A lot of that money has been wasted on project management fees. They've run into problems and have to be continually rescoping. And there's just been a lot of wastage with respect to renting tents and outsourcing, renting buildings. And all of that has contributed to not rescoping costs, but cost overruns for each scoped project.
All right, Dr. Dawes, we're going to take a pause right now. We're going to throw to a quick break. We'll continue this conversation right after.
Our days get a little complex sometimes. Often so many things make sense, yet so many do not. We are being intentional about giving prominence to the big stories in order to clarify and enlighten. Lead Story explains who, what, when, where, why, and how. Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV.
Truth is, you can live life to the fullest with HIV. This time signal is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The time is
12:15.
Welcome back. You're watching CVM News at noon. We're with the PNP spokesperson on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes. We're getting his reaction to the health minister's sectoral presentation in Parliament yesterday. Now, Dr. Dawes, before we went to the break, you said that the government has run into several cost overruns. However, in Parliament yesterday, the health minister sought to explain that as a rescoping of the efforts there. We're saying that work was not only being done on the main building, but properties surrounding the building. So then, wouldn't that $21.4 billion be worthwhile in the long run, especially for the communities there that will be impacted by this investment?
As someone who used to run a hospital in the Western region, I can tell you that all of that money that was supposed to make those hospitals better off, we were not seeing the effects. Noel Holmes Hospital, it is still a hospital that is in need of basic infrastructural works. Sav Hospital continues to be overcrowded, and right now we're looking at clinics that are outside of the hospital compound that we're probably incurring rental costs for. So if there are a lot of temporary measures, Palmont Hospital, they spent some money on the theaters, but there were huge cost overruns associated with that project. So it's not to say that it was rescoping. Each individual project had massive overruns. We just have to ask one question. How much has the Ministry of Health spent on project management fees and rescoping and consultancy work for the Cornwall Regional Hospital project? How much money? And you'll be very surprised at that figure if they choose to disclose it.
So, Dawes, you've recently been quoted as calling for an audit of the project. Are you still of that belief? Do you still want the project to be audited?
When I come in as Minister of Health, I'm going to audit it, because we have seen, and I'm reliably informed, that there have been instances where you would go in, they would scope a project, but then at the last minute, there were lots of bells and whistles thrown in that had no use whatsoever for the final outcome, but yet they were rescoped and included in the cost. Now, in the middle of the Cornwall Regional Hospital construction, when there was a lot of public outcry, the building was painted. Why was the building painted at that time? Was that a suitable course of action when you still had a lot of work, and some of that demolition would have damaged the paint job, but it was just put on to make the building more cosmetically pleasing? You know, a lot of decisions were taken, a lot of technical advice overruled because of political expediency, and someone has to pay for that. It can't be just the taxpayers.
All right, Dr. Dawes, we're going to segue from CHR very quickly, because among other things, Dr. Tufton announced a yearly stipend of $13,000 for pap smears. What do you make of this and some of the other billion-dollar investments that the minister announced?
What they should have been prioritizing from the get-go was preventative medicine. We are seeing skyrocketing rates of prostate cancer, colon cancer, as well as breast cancer. Now, we only have one, as far as I recall, mammogram in the public health system. Our Jamaican women are among the few in the world who are seeing an increase in death rates from breast cancer, whereas cervical cancer rates have slightly gone down, prostate cancer rates have gone up, colon cancer rates and death rates have gone up because there are no screening programs in place. So the announcement of a stipend for cervical cancer